This is episode 57 of the Marshall Street Podcast.
You're listening to the Marshall Street Podcast, the home of music industry know-how that will give you the skills to take your career to the next level. Here are your hosts, Bennett Ferguson and Stu Watts. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to
back.
Another episode of the Marshall Street Podcast,
You know
number 57.
That's right. I am Marshall. This is Stewie Watts.
Hello there. And today's topic is Stop Whinging, Start Winning.
I love this topic.
Beautiful.
Right, let's
Kick us off.
Let's get straight into it.
Let's also mention, that we have recently begun doing online consultations for free, 15-minute consultations.
Yep, head to our Instagram, Marshall Street Instagram, $80 Instagram. In the stories, there'll be links in our link tree, in the bio, in the stories. You'll see it there. If you want to jump in and have a free consultation with me, all about planning your next release, mindset, getting into the music industry, Stewie heading up everything production, recording, mixing related, and Matthew Craig from $80 taking on branding, press releases, all of the press distribution side of things. So if you want to learn more about that or upskill yourself, jump in. They're completely free, and you can talk to us in person. Got to do with your direct artist career.
Yep.
As always, if you've liked this information on this podcast, make sure to share it with a friend. You can also now rate podcasts on Spotify, so give us a rating. And that is pretty much the formality, so let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So why do you love this topic so much?
Because the two difference in mindsets to me are the difference between the people who end up winning, quote unquote, the people who live out their dreams, and the people who don't, who end up getting a job and being miserable. Yep. It's all about mindset. Mindset is the key to the game.
Yeah, and if you notice that, majority of our podcasts don't have any specific detailed information about the topic of here's how you do something. Yep. Step one, step two. We don't talk like that on this podcast. And the reason is, one, because there's no set way of doing something.
Correct.
But a lot of the stuff in this industry and the way to approach things, mindset-based.
It's all mindset.
It's mindset. It's how you think about things. It's what positions you put yourself in. It's how you approach things. All of that is way more important to whether you succeed or fail as opposed to the actual tasks.
Yep. There isn't a roadmap to go and achieve greatness in the music industry. If there was, someone would have printed out and it'd be step 1 to 10, do this and you'll achieve success. It doesn't exist. It's mindset. It is all mindset. And the biggest thing about people who complain, one thing is, dude, they're just not good people to be around. Like if someone is always complaining about the stuff they're doing, eventually just like, dude, I'm over it. Like, I don't care.
You're draining my life.
Yeah,
and it's emotionally taxing.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially in something like music where you're in the same room with that person for 6-8 hours if you're recording, you're playing shows with them. If you're on the road, you're with them 24 hours a day. Yeah. If someone is a complainer and always sees the negative about stuff, dude, it drains your energy so much. You're not happy. Yeah. It's just not a winning result.
Absolutely.
But not only that, once you're in that negative complaining mindset, you almost shut down all the doors to opportunity that open around you. When you're positive and looking for...
It's a poison.
100%. It's kind of like the people who will find a way as opposed to the people who will just stop.
Find a way to complain.
They'll find a way to tell you why it didn't happen to them. Yep. Man, I would have done this if it wasn't for this, this, and this. It's like, oh, dude, I would have played NBA if it wasn't for this. Like, okay, well, you didn't, so you're finding an excuse. You either find a way, you find an excuse.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And there's the important thing to that is there's always going to be things that are roadblocks. Always. There's never going to be any task that you perform that goes 100% smoothly. And if this is happening to you regularly, I want to know how. Yeah. Because it's just not, it's just...
Well, they're not. They're fronting if they say that.
Yeah, exactly.
But the other thing is, guess what? No one was just born amazing at something. Like Michael Jordan was born with some skills. Guess what? He worked his ass off to be the best. Like he wasn't just born the best in the NBA. Like it takes so much work.
And the thing that I think scares a lot of people about that as well, and why a lot of people make those sorts of excuses is they see the amount of hard work that it takes, and they're scared by it, and they aren't willing to put it in themselves. Yep. It's so much easier to say that guy's a dick or that's bullshit.
Yep. Oh, he got lucky. He got lucky.
He got lucky. I mean, he knew people. Yeah. It's like you don't know someone else's situation.
100%. Exactly right. And I think it's when people have ambition or they say they have a goal and it doesn't match up to their work ethic, I think that's when excuses come into it. Because a lot of people will tell you, oh man, I want to be an artist. I want to be the next MGK. I want to be a rapper. I want to be the next Eminem. But they're not willing to put in the work to do that. So, to bridge that gap, they have to justify that somehow on how they didn't become the next Eminem.
Yeah.
And it can't be because of them and their work ethic.
Yeah.
So they find an excuse.
Yeah.
You know, I look at it, the difference between anyone where you are now and where you dream or aspire to be, no matter how big or small that dream is, the only difference between where you are right now and you achieving that is a lack of skills, experience, and knowledge. Those three things, if you continually upskill yourself, get new experience and new knowledge, you will eventually get to a point.
Which takes work.
Which takes
That's
time.
the other
You
part
can't
of the
shortcut
equation.
it. It's
Yep.
skills, experience, and knowledge is what we need to keep growing.
Yep. And so the hard thing for so many people is they expect to have things happen, or they expect that A equals B, when A can equal C, D, E, F, G.
Or A can equal A for first 5 years, and you're like, what is this?
Exactly. And so that short-term thinking of like, if I do this, it's going to lead to this.
Yep.
And when you don't get that, because you pretty much never get that, A rarely equals the answer of B that you expect.
Yep.
And so when that doesn't work out, and when people don't get that thing that they thought that they would get, they find something to blame.
Yep. And that is what I'd put under the experience pile. Because once you go through that experience, and I've had it for me where I was like, hey man, we'll drop this single and then we'll get this support to a spot. And it didn't happen. And I got down on myself. And then you have to go through and improve your mindset. Because what I went through was an experience. It's like, I think it was Edison who invented the light bulb. He's like, everyone looks at him inventing the light bulb. He's like, I learned how to not invent the light bulb 1,000 times before I figured out the one that worked.
Yep.
So once you go through these negative experiences, negative quote unquote, it's just something that didn't go the way you thought. That is an experience that you learn from. And you go, okay, cool. If I want to get a different result, I need to do something different. So you're constantly upgrading yourself through these life experiences. You know, at the end of the day, nothing is negative or positive. That is a subjective term that we put on ourselves to find what we think the outcome should be.
It's purely an outcome.
Yeah. But it's like sometimes, you know, not getting something is positive. You learn from it, you grow from it.
Totally.
It's like most people don't know what to do if they got rich tomorrow. They don't have the right mindset to make sure that they will never lose all that money.
Well, there's the thing that I think it's the UK where if you win the lottery, like the main prize, where you can be offered to get this amount of a lump sum in one payment. I think it's, say it's $1 million.
Yep.
Say you get $1 million payment. You can get that in one payment, or over 20 years, you can get however much that works out to be. But because of the way that the interest works and inflation, they actually end up paying you more than $1 million. And so there's that two options. You can have this option of a short-term thing that might benefit you in the short term, depends on how you use it still, or being aware that, okay, this is going to benefit me more if in the long term I do these little incremental things and get this bigger outcome.
Yep. But unless you've gone through the sequential steps and grown to get that $1 million to earn it, you don't know what to do with it. You haven't gone through step 1, 2, 3. So once you get there, it's no wonder that most people fall because you haven't done the steps to get there.
There's that classic meme of the kid stepping up the stairs.
Yeah, it's like, and this is how they want their journey to go. It's like 1, skip 2 to this one. And you see it with artists if they go from nothing to a huge amount of fame very quickly. What happens when things don't go their way or their single doesn't hit is they fall not back down one step to pick themselves back up. They fall all the way back down. So you've got to grow incrementally, bit by bit, and it's going through experiences that didn't pan out the way you should. That's what makes you you. That's what gives you experience.
I think the thing that I notice a lot in the studios is hearing about people expecting that when I release music, people are going to like it. Music equals more fans. And that's just not how it works. It's just not, that's not the equation. And so you cannot expect that jump. You cannot expect that just by putting out a piece of music that all of a sudden you're going to have fans.
Correct.
Or you're going to have listeners or you're going to have whatever.
And especially like in these days, there's so much more to it. It's like, yes, a band needs to put out music. That's fairly obvious. You're not if you never release music, you're just a bunch of guys that hang out together. So yes, releasing music is part of it, But then you've got to really dissect the, the current state and of the industry that you're in. And it's like, guess what, man? Being present on socials, being present, like adapting to new platforms, responding to fans, these things are arguably more, if the same, if not more important than the music.
Yep.
Because, there's everyone can name you 5 artists. They're like, how is that guy famous? Tekashi 6ix9ine. Like, man, he doesn't have any skill. But guess what? He must have done something, right?
Yeah, correct.
So what's he doing that you're not?
Yes.
And it's probably not, like, music is subjective. It's sonically based. How you're feeling, what you went through the 15 minutes prior to listening to a song will determine whether you like it or not.
Yep.
So the sonics, they need to be at some respectable level. Yes. But there were so many other things at play that artists don't want to either face or don't want to be accountable to when they're like, no, but I put out music. Why don't people listen to me?
Yeah. And the other thing we see is people. Oh, fuck! I lost my train of thought there. Never mind. Keep going.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then short-term mindset.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people end up whining and complaining because they're looking at it in a short-term mindset.
Yeah.
They think that they're going to go from zero to being insanely rich and millions of dollars and driving Bugattis in a year.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I remembered now is that you can have these perspectives on people only based on what you know and only based on what you experience. So what you see of someone famous or someone that's made it in the music industry, you have not seen every step that they've taken, which is individual to them, by the way. Like we said at the start, there's no roadmap. There's no one way to do things. That person that you're evaluating based on your own experience and your own knowledge, lack of knowledge, is wrong because you have not seen what they've done every step of the way. You don't know the people that they know. You don't know the
like
crew
the
that they have.
You've only seen the tip of the iceberg. And even on that, like a lot of people who will judge on that tip, they haven't really done the research to even find out most of the information out there.
Made up.
You don't know what happened along the way. You don't know everything below the surface that allowed them to get to that position.
Yeah. So I think the other thing that is important to talk about is while you're sitting there in this place of whinging and upset and whatever it is,
complaining,
negativity, the other people that aren't doing that are working and are getting results.
And they're putting themselves in a position for something positive to happen. So, that's always something to, I guess, remind yourself because there's always going to be times when something didn't go your way and you're going to be like, fuck, I wish that happened. That is, I guess, human nature. And it's just to remember, and whether that's you have Post-it notes on your desk or you have something to remind yourself going, hey man, nothing's going to be productive while you're in this mind frame, in this state of mind. If you're complaining to someone, there is literally someone out there working to take your spot.
And what we say all the time is like, while what you want as a creative, as an artist, if you want to be a successful person, if you want to get paid for your art and that, you have to be on someone's mind. You have to be there when the other people aren't. And so how do you do that? There's so many ways, but the obvious thing is like work, connections, talent, outcomes, all of these things that lead for you to get into this place that you wanted to get, say it's on a Spotify playlist or something like that. All these little parts of that puzzle lead to you being there and another artist not. And so while you're sitting there and not doing the work, not making connections, not learning your craft, not getting good at what you do, someone else is.
100%. Not only that, but, you're going to be dragging people down. Like it's you're creating this little black hole of emotion around you that just sucks people into it. And guess what, man? Creatives on a whole are usually pretty spiritual creatures. They're usually more in touch with their emotions and the spirituality side of things. If you're a downer, man, and it's not fun to be around you, creatives are going to leave. They're just going to go and find someone else who it's fun to make music with. Because at the end of the day, we all do this so that we didn't get a real job. We did this because we want to enjoy our life and enjoy our day-to-day. If you're constantly bringing people down about art, it's like, dude, we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, well, I think the thing there is music can be tiring because you put so much emotional investment into it and you do work hard for the most part. Most of these people that are whinging, half of them, I would say, have done a lot of work, right? There's an argument to that, right? And so it is hard. It is challenging. There's so much work that goes into it if you want to try and be successful. Yes, your mindset might be flawed, but what leads to burnout, that hard work without actually having the right mindset and being aware of, you need to do other things in your
Well,
life.
I'll take it another way. I think you're exactly right. But I think the work that they're doing that leads to burnout isn't effective and isn't productive. It's them. It's like running on a treadmill.
Yeah.
They think they're doing
Yeah.
they're doing busy
Yeah.
man work. They're
Yeah.
like, dude, I was in my room for 8 hours
Yeah.
today. Why aren't I famous?
Yeah.
You're probably not putting the energy in exerting energy in the right place.
Correct, yeah.
And that could be just because you have you might be early in your career and you don't know where you should be
Yeah.
exerting this
Yeah.
energy.
Yep.
You might need to go and network and speak to someone who's done it, and you'd be like, oh man, no wonder. Like we don't know these like flaws and bad habits we form, and you
Yeah.
can be spending 6 out of your 10-hour day on something that is completely useless and you don't even know it yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, you might be like, hey, I'm working, but really all you're doing is burning yourself out by running on a treadmill doing things you didn't need to be doing.
And so therefore, it is important that you recalibrate every so often, whether
Yep.
that's once a month.
And you
every
can't
2 months.
recalibrate yourself. A
You
broken
can't, no,
a broken
absolutely.
compass cannot recalibrate itself.
Correct. That's exactly what I was going to say is you need other people to bounce off and to be like, where am I at?
Yep.
Because you cannot evaluate where you're at by yourself.
Yep, you can't.
You need feedback.
100%.
You can only guess and you can only make assumptions based on where you think you're at right now. Say for me as a mix engineer, I can make assumptions on how my mixes sound based on what I think.
Yep.
That thinking could be completely flawed.
Yep. If you then go and work with 10 clients and 10 clients come and give you the same feedback and you're like, hey dude, this sucks. Or,
And you're
"Man,
like, no, it's not me. It's
Yeah.
you. It's your speakers. It's
Well,
this. It's
suddenly it's like there probably needs to be some reevaluating going on, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just going, oh, okay, this is where I should be putting some more energy. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I need to learn more about this frequency because
Yeah.
this is proving to be a trouble for me.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess some people, it's especially early on when imposter syndrome is so big and you're always trying to prove stuff to people, it's often hard to, I guess, be told your flaws and be told that you're not that good at something. Like that's not
Yeah.
always easy things to hear.
Yeah.
But they're the growth things, and it's just having the right mindset to be open to constructive criticism, to being open to someone be like, hey man, this is really good. What you're doing here is awesome, but you need to tighten the screws here. Like this here needs some work.
Well, there's always ways for improvement. That's important as well. You're never going to get to this place where you've done it all.
Correct.
You're never going to get to this place where you can say, I am the best at this. It's not,
Yeah.
that's not possible. And so therefore you have to keep learning. You have to keep getting feedback and you just got to keep growing.
Yeah.
And that growth mindset of of knowing that you will continually get better if you put in the work.
Yep.
And if you, approach things the right way, that growth over an exponential period will be huge.
Yep,
And so
100%.
that short term of like this will lead to that that growth hasn't happened.
Yep.
And so therefore you cannot get the results that you expect to get in that really short term.
100%. And there's something that I say all the time. It's like most people overestimate what they can do in a year. They give themselves these huge, audacious goals for 12 months, and they underestimate what they can do in 10
Yep.
if they start. And then all of a sudden, if you give yourself 10 years to do something, you can fuck it up 3 ways till Friday for the first 3 years. You still got 7 years under your belt.
Yep.
You're laughing. You're good.
Yep.
And just having that mindset alleviates a lot of this internal stress.
Yep.
But then even getting back to what you're saying about, growth, there's something really, I guess, pure about meeting someone who's really open to improving their flaws. When you meet those people who's like, oh man, can you tell me where I'm not good at so I can get better? Those people who genuinely want to get
Yep.
better at a craft, that is...
They will get better.
They glow. It's like there's this aura. It's because
Yep.
they're not trying to cover it up. They're not trying to walk around with their head in the sand and pretending they don't have flaws. That is a really positive thing to be around.
Well, people
as
can see
opposed-
through. People can see through facades a mile away. It's like you can easily see when someone's talking shit about
Yep.
how good they are.
Yep.
And so and
And
the
that's
other,
a complete turnoff because like people pick up
Huge.
on it. And I guess the analogy I'll use is like imagine if you tried to be a football player and you had all the skills but you couldn't kick straight.
Yeah.
And you kept telling yourself, you're like, dude, I'm the best. You walked into every team and you were the best runner, you were the best, you were bigger than everyone, you had every skill trumped, you just couldn't kick straight. If you keep walking around with your head in the sand, and you're like, well, I'm just gonna cover it up by running around, and you're not gonna, if you're really open,
can't get to that next level.
you won't.
Yep.
You won't.
Yep, absolutely. The last point I think that we can start to wrap things up is when you're complaining about something, there is always someone that has actually done that thing. There's very rarely times that new things are happening.
Yeah.
Most of the new exciting things are usually based off other things most of the time. And so when someone is complaining about something that they couldn't achieve and blaming other people for, that is someone else's like goal.
Yep.
And that's someone I would dream to
be
get
in
to
that
to
position.
be in that place.
Yep, that's it. Like, struggle is, universal. Everyone goes through hard times, but I think that's definitely one thing to remember. And again, is to calibrate yourself. The very position that you're complaining about being in, there's someone just starting out their journey that would love to be in that position. Like if you're complaining that you didn't get this support spot, there's someone just starting their career that's like, fuck, dude, I would love
they even play that
I would
gig,
love to be able to say to my friend, oh, I wish I got that support spot. Because that just means you're in the circle.
Yeah.
It means you're doing something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
so just by thinking and reminding yourself that, hey, man, this may not have gone the way you thought, but there is a queue of people behind me who would
Yep.
love to be in this spot.
And that will eventually.
If you don't
Someone will
stop
take
complaining,
that spot. Yeah.
fucking oath.
Yep.
If you don't stop complaining and start working and getting to this positive mindset, this growth mindset,
Yep.
someone will come and take your spot. And
Yep.
in 2 to 3 years, you'll be irrelevant in any industry, whether that's a corporate world and you're just that dude in the office who always complains.
Yep.
Eventually, you're not going to have a job there anymore, man. Same with music. If you're just that person that always complains about you didn't get something, there's going to be someone else that comes out behind you that starts taking your spot.
Yep, absolutely. I think that comes back to what we were saying before about it being such an emotionally driven industry because it's based on something that makes you feel. You can't express it any other way. Music is an expression. You can't do that through writing. There's poetry, that is another expression, but I'm talking specifically about the music industry here. Because it's such an emotion and feelings-based world, you put everything into it because you have to feel something, to make someone else feel something, and that can be draining. And so what happens as a result of that is if you don't get results, you can automatically feel like the world's against you, or you can feel like it had to be something else, but you're not fully evaluating where you are in the scheme of things. And you've told me about it before when you didn't get that gig. It's probably because of someone else that just knew the guy who was putting on the gig. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't know the outside circumstances that put everything together.
Yep.
And so when you're in this place of like complaint and feeling like it's everyone else's fault, you're right. People aren't going to want to hang out with you. It's a poison. They're going to want to choose someone else instead of you. And what is better than having someone in this room that brings positive energy and pumps you up and appreciates you for what you do and wants to pass you on to everyone else? Word of mouth.
It's huge.
That's what it is. That is word of mouth.
100%.
I've had a good experience with this person. They weren't hard to work with. They did a great job. They were fun to be around. I recommend them to you.
100%. And not only that, like trust. Obviously, you need trust for someone to really recommend you through word of mouth. And nothing builds trust like seeing someone take ownership for flaws or take ownership for something that they need to improve on. Because then it just gives you this sense, hey, man, this is a real person. Like they're just here trying to get better like me. That builds this, this rapport and this trust. And I think there's a difference between taking responsibility for things. You can be, oh, man, cool. That was my responsibility. I'm sorry, my bad. Like you're taking responsibility, but it's a hollow act. And then I think the next level is people who take complete ownership over everything in their life. You go, hey, man, everything in my life, the good, the bad, and the fucking ugly, this is all on me, yeah? This really is, everything that I've done is me. And sometimes it sucks because you have to really accept things. But once you do that, you can start to change things. And it doesn't happen overnight, especially if you're on the wrong path for 10 years, you can't just turn that ship on a dime. It's going to take 10 years to correct that path. But you need to start that somewhere. And man, it's contagious. When you see someone who really takes ownership over everything in their life and they're really responsible about stuff and they go, cool, they really want to get better and improve, just being around people like that, you get better and you end up doing
Yeah.
the same. It's like you absorb through osmosis
Yeah.
their attitude.
And the other thing to that is it's not only about the actual work that you put in, you can channel that energy into your creative art, like art. You can, upon reflection of being like, okay, I'm feeling this way, I can then channel that into songwriting.
100%.
I can then channel that into distortion,
Yeah.
making something sound fucked up
Yep.
because I feel fucked up.
Yep.
I want to emulate my feelings into a sound.
Yep.
You know, there's so much that you can do based on that reflection and being like, okay, something's going on here. I've talked about it to someone. I've unpacked it. How can I channel that into my art?
Now let's make art about it.
And that's what is the best art.
100.
Challenging
I would
art.
argue that that's what art and music should be from.
Yeah.
It should be what you're going through, what you're feeling, the real emotions, not what you think people are looking for.
exactly.
If you're trying to put down drill and you're not a driller and you don't come from that scene,
No one's gonna fuck
no
with
one's
it.
going to believe it. Yeah. So going through those and having those real emotions,
Yep.
that is what you use for your art.
Yep. Love it.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that
Summary.
Summary 1, stop whining and start winning, I think. Just stop complaining. And everyone knows it. Everyone sees it. If you're just that dude who complains in the room, like you're never going to get to where you want to be. And that goes for sports teams. If you're playing in rep sides of sports and there's always that one dude who complains in the locker room, guess what, man? He's probably never going to make it to the big time.
Yep.
He's got to take that attitude towards everything. Then just remember, the position you're in that you're currently complaining about, there is a queue of people who would love to be in the position you're in.
And I think if you recognize that about yourself, that I might be being a bit negative here. I might have spiraled into some negativity. It might be rubbing off onto people around me, or you're not aware of it. It's still important to discuss those sorts of things so that you can progress,
Yep.
so that you can get better, so that you can move forward and ultimately create better.
Yep. And you'll be a
Because
better
when you're-
person,
Yeah, and
if
when
anything.
you're not in the right headspace, when you're not in the right mindset, it's going to reflect everywhere. You're not going to get results. You're not going to be working efficiently, and you're not going to be creating good music, which is at the end of the day what you want to do. You don't want to be creating shit music. You
Yeah.
want to be doing your best.
And you're not going to be creating opportunities for yourself. And not only that, you're not going to recognize opportunities for there. You're not going to want to take that small show because you're like, what's he going to do? When in fact, there was someone in that crowd that night that could have opened a door. Like those little things that make up life, you're just not going to, you're not going to be open to them because you're sitting and dwelling in this negative mind state.
Yep. Well, hopefully that wasn't too negative, and we want to get better. So if you
Yeah.
have feedback,
Yeah.
hit us up.
100%.
We want to know how we can improve as well.
Yep.
And so get into our DMs on Insta. Check us out, Marshall Street Studios. Stu, Bennett, thanks again for joining us. If you liked what you've heard today, if you think someone needs to hear this, please share it with them.
Yep. If you know someone who's negative and complaining, share them with this podcast. And then, like, in a productive way,
conversation.
100%. Man. And I can tell you from someone who's been in those dark mental places myself, man, the best thing someone can do is start that conversation with you.
Yep.
Yeah, it might be uncomfortable early, but guess
Totally.
what? 6 months down the line, when you're both bouncing off each other and you're happy and you're in this positive feedback loop,
Yep.
you're going to be like, fuck, man, thank you
I'm
so much for
glad
that.
we had that
100%.
conversation.
Yep. So share it with them. You can now rate podcasts on Spotify. So if you like this, make sure to rate it. And we will see you next time on the Marshall Street Podcast.
Cheers.
Peace.